I want to share a couple of stories with you that will illustrate a couple of principles about paying attention to the things that are in the natural and it correlating with the things that are in the spiritual realm. One of the things that John Paul used to say all the time is that not everything means something, but things mean more than you realize. Quite a few years ago, probably about 7, 8 years ago, I was really wanted to meet a prophetic voice by the name of a gentleman by the name of Bob Jones. And I've been trying to meet him since 1986. I've heard a lot about him. Several people have talked about him. I've been to conferences where I'd heard stories about him. And so I really wanted to meet him. And so one day, my wife called and she said that Aaron Evans called and said that he set up a meeting for you and him and Jim, another guy, to go meet Bob. And so I was all excited. I was like, this is my time. This guy's a prophetic voice. I really would love to get prophetic ministry to my life, that he would share something with me about what's going on, because he was a prophetic voice. And so here I was super excited. And so we go and we drive over there to meet Bob Jones, and we're sitting here in this filling station or gas station. And so Bob's assistant comes out. He drives out to the filling station. He picks us up, and we drive to Bob's house. And we go inside his house, and I'm sitting there, and Bob's right across the way there, and his wife Viola was there. And so we were all sitting there, and Bob was talking. And so I am just really excited about listening to Bob, and hopefully I was praying about, getting a word from Bob. And so as we're sitting there and I'm listening to Bob, his wife Viola was to the left of me, and I hear a voice. It was just like this. It is like, Viola's going to die today. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I was like, where did that come from? I was like, get away from me. And it was like that still small voice. It's not a loud, thunderous voice. It was that still small voice that we all hear. And I hear it again. Viola's going to die today. I'm thinking, what the heck is that? And so it's distracting me. And here I was trying to listen to Bob. And so Viola, she comes over. She sits next to me. I say hi, and Bob's still talking. She puts down her water, and she sits there for like 5 minutes. She gets up, she knocks over her water, and so she gets up, she goes to the back bedroom. 2 minutes later, we hear her cough 3 times, and she dies of a heart attack. And I was just like, what the heck is going on? And I mean, he was shocked. Everybody was shocked. We called the 911. They came and got her, and we all rushed to the hospital. And I know that several of Bob's friends were like an hour away, so I'm sitting in there with Bob Jones, who I just met, heard a lot about. I don't know where Aaron and these other guys were at. I'm in the hospital. Bob's sitting in a chair. I'm standing above him, next to him, and the doctor comes in and says she didn't make it. And Bob starts crying, and I hug him. And I'm just thinking about that situation. I'm kind of flustered. And I'm just sitting there. So I called John Paul, and I said, hey, John Paul, I was like, this is the situation that happened. And I was like, what the heck was going on? And he said, God was trying to teach you how to hear him. He knew that you weren't going to say anything because it was her time to go. And it wasn't meant for you to communicate what you were seeing. It was God was trying to teach you a principle. And I said, well, okay. And I still kind of didn't understand him, but he got me to think. So I started thinking, and I started meditating on that. And that night, as I was going to bed, I was meditating on it, and I was thinking, what did he mean? And all of a sudden, I just closed my eyes, and the Lord started speaking to me. And he said this. He said, Recie, I was trying to teach you that I was speaking to you about that situation that was going to happen all day, but you weren't paying attention. And he took me back through all the events, and he said, I was speaking in the things of the natural. They were speaking of the things in the spirit that were about to come. And so as I was going back, I remembered that when we were at the gas station, I looked down, and I stepped on this little circle thing, like plate, and it said Jones on it. Almost like sometimes you go to the graveyard before they put the plots down, it has the circle thing and it says their name on it. And then when I was in the house and I was listening intently to Bob, an ambulance goes by and I hear the sound, Viola's going to die today. And the second time I hear it, an ambulance goes by. And then when Viola was next to me, she had that water and she spilt the water, which represents life being poured out. And so God was just trying to teach me, and he was trying to say that I'm speaking to you of the things in the natural if you're paying attention, of the things that are going on in the spirit realm. A lot of people, they want to hear God speak to them in thunder and lightning or audible voice, but God speaks in many of ways. And like John Paul used to say all the time, not everything means something, but things mean more than you realize. But it taught me to start paying attention with my eyes, start looking to see what's going on around me that are speaking of the things. And Jesus constantly told his disciples that I'm telling you these things in the natural and you don't believe. How are you going to believe the things that I tell you of the Spirit, right? And so I remember another situation where John Paul was teaching me this whole principle. It was on that trip when we were in Poland. And John Paul loved to go walk in the night of the cities, of old cities in Poland, overseas and stuff. And so we walked and we went to dinner with a group of us. I think there was about 10 to 12 of us. And so as we were going out of dinner, we were walking out, John Paul turns to me and he says, "Now, Recie," he says, "show us how to get back to our hotel." And I was like, well, John Paul, I was like, sorry. I said, I wasn't paying attention. And he looks at me and he goes, always pay attention to your surroundings. And I was like, man, did he not like the dinner or something? I was like, I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me, and I thought he was in a bad mood and he was cranky. So somebody else showed us how to get home, and that night as I reflected on what John Paul was saying, it was really the Lord, not John Paul, but it was really the Lord saying this: always pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to what's happening. Because if you're not paying attention to the things in the natural, how are you going to pay attention to those things that are of the Spirit? And so most people I meet, they don't pay attention. It's almost like they walk around with blinders on and realizes that there's many things that are pointing toward what's about to happen. Even Jesus said it on many occasions. He says, no man knows the day or the hour of the coming of the Son of Man. But he says, you will know the times and the seasons and the signs. That if we pay attention, that we'll be able to see, because there'll be signs pointing in the earth of what's about to happen. And so those are just a couple of principles that I've learned that help me pay attention to the things that are going on in the natural, to be able to discern what's going on in the realm of the Spirit.